Right. We happy that you came in to see us today. We're here to learn and see what we can do to help you in any way. My name is Dr. Nielsen, and this is
This is Dr. Mickelson.
Mickelson. Could you give us your full name?
Yeah, my name is Jacob White.
Awesome. Do you have a preference of what we call you, Jacob, Jake?
Jacob is fine.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
Okay. Are you currently in school?
Yeah, I am a senior at Skyridge. So, yeah, just a senior now.
Okay, awesome. And could you briefly tell us about your family?
Yeah, so my mom, she's a yoga instructor. My dad, he works from home. He does some software company. And then I do have an older sister. She's 21.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. Before we dive in, we just need to discuss some Utah therapy laws with you. So Dr. Mickelson is going to discuss that.
Thank you, Dr. Nielsen. So just a heads up, Jacob, all the stuff we talk about here, we really want you to be comfortable with and be open with us, because that's really what's going to help not only us understand what's going on for you, but also help you grow and kind of get as much processing done as you can, as well as get the most out of therapy. We don't want to waste your time, because it's just, I mean, being here, however long you're here, or however many times you're here, we want it to be beneficial. Okay?
That sounds good. Thanks.
Of course. All right. So with these laws that Dr. Nielsen mentioned, I don't know if you've heard of them. It's called a HIPAA confidentiality law. Um, Basically, it is stating that anything that you say here is confidential, but there are certain clauses that we need to mention in order to, cover all the bases, make sure legally we are all in good standing. The first one is that psychologists may disclose private information, so anything that you say, without consent, in order to protect the patient, which is you, or the public from serious harm. So, for example, if there was a really big problem where you were feeling really, let's say, homicidal, that would be one where we would have to, if you were to feel homicidal and have a specific plan and talk elaborately about it, that would be one where we would have to alert the authorities and make sure that everybody's safe and protected. We don't want you to get hurt, but we also don't want anybody else to get hurt. Okay.
I just have a question. Does that also include, letting my parents know?
That is a good question. Part of it is because you're under 18, you are 17. Parents are entitled to know what the child is engaging in if it's a risky activity. So, if you're telling us about a lot of risky things that are potentially dangerous, yes, we do have to tell your parents about those. But we are going to open it up to you, Jacob, and talk to you first and say, hey, listen, this is one thing we have to talk to your parents about. But we do want to inform you and be all on the same page so that you're comfortable with it and prepared for it as well. Because we don't want to just, metaphorically drop the bomb on your parents and have a whole, a fight about it. We want to do it professionally and respectfully of your decisions, because in all honesty, the trust has to be really, really high here. Because if you don't trust us, you're not going to tell us what you're going through, right?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much.
Of course. And that also goes along with your parents. We want them to have that similar trust so that they can open up as well if there's stuff that we need to talk to them about, in order to keep you safe and well accounted for. Okay?
Okay, that sounds good.
Of course. And that kind of goes along with our next one here. If there's any domestic violence, abuse, neglect of children or elderly people or people with disabilities, that would be one where we would have to discuss that. Along those lines, if there's like something that happened decades ago, let's say if you were an adult and you're abused as a child, the psychologist technically wouldn't be bound to report that. But it would be beneficial to still talk about those things to process them. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then finally, if there's any court order, if there's any illegal stuff that happens, we would be required to report that. And just in case it involves anything about mental health or legal proceedings. Okay.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Of course, and thank you for asking that question about if we tell your parents, because that's really, we want you to feel really open about asking questions, because anything you ask, we're not going to just shut you down. We're going to give you a good, honest explanation to the best of our abilities. And if we don't know, we'll tell you, hey, that's a tough one. You stumped us. We're going to keep working on that, and we're going to get you a good answer. Okay?
Thanks so much. I feel a lot more comfortable.
Good. That's what we're looking for. We really, it's hard for both of us on both sides, like all of us. This is a first encounter. We want to make sure we're comfortable and move forward together, not just like us running ahead and then you kind of trailing behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Mickelson, for explaining that. Now we want to get to know you and your story a little bit more. Could you tell us a little bit about you, your hobbies and interests, and are you working right now?
So I'm currently not working. I really just like to play video games, chill with my friends. Sometimes we go snowboarding. Um, that's what I like to do right now. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, sounds good. Could you tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your friends?
Yeah. Occasionally I hang out with them. Sometimes if they tell me that there's a party, I'll go with them. Um, I have like 3 to 4 really close friends. And then I have like just 10 friends that I occasionally hang out with. But the 4 friends are like, that's my group.
Okay, sounds good. Um, could you tell me about your relationship with your parents?
Yeah. Um, I don't feel like we have a good relationship because I'm here and they sent me here and they feel like I have a problem and I don't think that I have a problem, but I don't think that we understand each other eye to eye with me and my parents. Um, it used to be a lot different. We used to be able to communicate well and our relationship was better, but I feel like now it's just the lack of understanding is just not there with them.
Okay, I'm really sorry to hear that. Um, so is that kind of what brings you here today then?
Yeah, I feel like my parents, we've been arguing so much and we constant like stop fighting all the time in the household and I know they're sick of it, I'm sick of it, and I think that their solution was sending me here so that I can get my problems fixed. So that's kind of what brings me in here today.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's an interesting answer. I did want to backtrack a second here. Did you notice any time in your life that changed? Because you said it was better before and now it's not so great. What was the moment, the pivotal moment where it changed from like that good connection to the misconnection, the fighting, kind of that I don't want to say toxic, but I want to say little uncomfortable situation now. When did that change?
I definitely feel like once I hit like my sophomore year, I've been just hanging out with a lot more friends and not really with my parents. And so because I wasn't hanging out with them, our relationship hasn't really grown and our communication wasn't always there. Um, I definitely feel like a big incident in my life happened a couple years ago where my friend Stacy, she got in a car accident and that has really like I don't think I've fully processed that emotion and I mean, which is why I I can lash out sometimes at them and it was never like that before. And so I want to say just, a couple years ago when, that happened.
Yeah, it sounds like you were pretty close with Stacy. Um, how was your relationship different with your parents than with Stacy? Was
I
it pretty
want
similar, like really supportive, or was it pretty different?
I definitely feel like Stacy definitely supported me more. I don't feel the support with my parents. I just feel like it's constant nagging and constant like you need to change this and continue to do that, and if I don't do what they want, it's like they're very disappointed in me, and doesn't feel good to have, your parents always feel disappointed in you. Um, but with Stacy, I always felt accepted.
That makes sense. That sounds kind of overwhelming with your parents. That sounds even more overwhelming to lose that person that supported you a lot.
I agree. It was really tough for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much. Was there a time in your life when you felt like you had a better relationship with your parents?
I feel like when I was younger, I would just, go hiking with my dad and go biking with him all the time, and now I just feel like it's not the same like that anymore, and it's kind of my fault too because I don't feel like that interests me anymore. I have different interests, and just doing those things with my dad, it doesn't excite me like it used to.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what kind of relationship with your parents would you like to have?
I definitely feel like having like a mutual understanding of each other. Like I want them to see where I'm coming from and why I do the things I do instead of them like always nagging at me because I feel like I'm never doing anything right. So I want them to understand me more, but I definitely feel like I need to try harder um to express my emotions with them and to be a better communicator to them as well.
Okay, makes sense.
I like that response. I like that you're kind of looking inward of what you can change. You know, we always like to look at both sides of the conversation. Obviously, there's almost never a situation where just one person is right. It's almost always, they're right a little bit, you're right a little bit. I love that you're looking inward, though. I did want to ask, though, you mentioned that your parents nag at you quite a bit. What exactly do they nag about to you? Because, I mean, we all got parents, whether it's, foster care, adoption, or just biological. What does that nagging look like for you? And what really, really kind of grinds your gears? Which really bothers you the most when your mom and dad nag you? What exactly is the topic?
So they always argue about my alcohol and my substance abuse. I started drinking alcohol maybe a couple years ago with my friends, and then when I'm feeling frustrated or overwhelmed, that's when I would do it again. But more so marijuana, I feel like I've been doing it maybe every day, 3 times a day. So it's gotten a lot worse, and I noticed that they've been constantly on me about that. So that would be the reason.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Um, is there a reason why you got into the drugs? You kind of mentioned feeling overwhelmed. Would you be willing to dive more into that?
Yeah, I just definitely feel like there's just been so much pressure, especially, that moment when Stacy died and then all this expectations from my parents. Um, I just felt like I needed to escape for a little bit, and that's why I smoke because I just can't really I just don't want to be, here for the moment. I just kind of want to get in my own space in my own time frame. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So you mentioned wanting to be here in the moment. Have you had thoughts about suicide or hurting yourself?
I do remember, one time I was thinking about cutting myself with the butter knife when my parents are sleeping. Um, but that thought went out of my mind when I think about, I don't want to die. I just want to escape for a little bit, and that's why drugs help me so much.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. We want to be able to help you to escape in healthier ways. So we want to provide you with some resources to help with this. And Dr. Mickelson will explain the first resource.
So our first resource here um, that I've actually been to and I've actually really enjoyed is a online course that you could do with your parents because you mentioned wanting to have a better relationship, wanting to connect with them better, and these guys do a really good job. It's called Love and Logic Parenting Online. It's a 6-week course. So with your therapy, because we want it to be, your decision. Maybe not to come to therapy because your parents are kind of, in charge of that because you are a minor. We want it to be your kind of input of the frequency. So, Jacob, what would be the frequency that you would like? Personally, I think, every 2 weeks, at least twice a month would be perfect for kind of what's going on, to kind of come for a bit, make some changes, see if things work, see if things don't work. What do you think? Does every other week sound good to you?
I like that plan every other week. I definitely feel like I wouldn't need any less than that, but I wouldn't need any more than that either.
Yeah, and we can definitely change that. We're open to changing the scheduling for you, because we, like we said, we're here for you. We want to make sure you're taken care of, and if we need to, double up or reduce a little bit, we'll make sure we make that decision together. As for the 6 week course, though, it is one that you should take with your parents, and it is all about parenting. It's all about, love and logically, that's what it's about. But it does examine quite a few different styles in order to help you and your parents be on the same page and connect better. Because it's, when I took it, I've used it quite a bit with my family and my parents, and it's helped a lot. I don't want to say everything about it because I want it to be kind of a breakthrough for you. So, would you be willing to do that? With your parents?
I definitely think that having my parents there would benefit both of us, and so I do really love that idea.
Awesome. I like that. Um, Dr. Nielsen will explain this next one here.
Yeah, so the next one is a book. It's about reframing your mind and your thinking. And this is important because this can help you kind of see your parents' perspective and shift your thinking a little bit. So we'll have you read this book. You don't have to read it within next session. It can just take your time, and this will be really beneficial for you.
Okay, I
Yeah,
agree.
I
I
just want
feel
to.
like sorry.
Sorry, Jacob, continue. Yeah.
Um, like you said, like it would change my perspective. I feel like um I want to be able to see where they're coming from, and I think that this book will definitely help me with that. So I agree on that recommendation.
Awesome.
And I just want to jump in and expand on a little bit of what I've seen with this idea of reframing. Um, like what you mentioned, you do want a better relationship with your parents, but you did say that they kind of want you here, but you might not really understand why you're here, and that's totally fine. Reframing is essentially bringing the perspective, flipping it around, and then showing it back to you to see what you think about your own perspective, and maybe make it a little bit easier to understand. So that's a super, super good one. Um, the next one, Jacob, is a youth community center. I know your mom actually works at a community center, but we're trying to get you a little bit independence, but also get some interaction with other friends. Like you said, the change from the real good connection with your parents was when Stacy had passed, and that must have been really, really difficult. And we're not trying to replace Stacy or replace the friends that you have, but we think it would be a really good idea to check out this community center. They've got a bunch of different recreational sports. They've got a fitness center. Being 17, you might have a lot of energy now, but when you're older, you're going to really benefit from this decision to go to this youth community center.
Okay, I mean I love activities, and so I'd be willing to go for that. Thank you.
We want to thank you so much for coming here, Jacob, and we will see you next time.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.